when I listened to Marina, I figured out why I am here now. I'm an engineer to close the gap also all this assessment. I will close it if I can. So that's the okay, so my name is Ramazan. Sorry, I'm from Technical University of Denmark. I'm an economist, but I work on energy since I graduated from my PhD. And most I focus on the social and economic issues of energy and environmental policy development. Of course, I initially started with the economic growth and mostly economic issues. Now, most I work on energy and environmental issues. And it is becoming interdisciplinary. Hopefully, I can explain to you why I switched to interdisciplinary work after this presentation, because it's all started global challenges. I will focus on those shortly. So, where's my slide?
Next one. If you switch to the next slide, there.
Oh, I guess I.
Yeah, you should.
No.
Nope. Doesn't work. Okay.
Maybe can
You need to do it manually, maybe for you.
Just need laser, but there's no laser here.
Okay, let me try do it manually.
No, so much. Just try that.
No? Oh, yeah.
Okay, I picked this title just to make sure how this social acceptance goes into this hydropower research and policy development, because the social acceptance has become very popular now, and many people don't know what is this about. And it was already before this literature, before it grows, people were assuming if they invent something or implement a policy, public just can accept it. Now, all of a sudden, we figure out that that's not the case, because there are lots of barriers and hesitations and lots of concerns of the society before you implement something. It could be from large scale projects or from small scale, even technology usage or implementation. So it's become a serious problem if we have these issues that are raised during implementation, because it increases the cost of it, it may cause the cancellation of the project, or it may just trash the technology. As I said before in my other presentations, and the technology, the trash is full of technologies. Why? Because people who put effort on it, develop something, but they don't use it. If they don't use it, then we call the socially unacceptable technology or implementation or projects lost. That's something. So the reason behind the failed project is usually this social acceptance, or the factors of the social acceptance. Maybe the dimension of social acceptance is a reason why that thing, whatever it is, failed. Okay? So I'll just give you a brief introduction about this. Then we can talk about the issues in hydropower. I think after my presentation, we are going to have a group discussion about the news in the social media related to social acceptance. So all start with the global challenges. This is the slide that I take everywhere with me. Whenever I have a speech, I start with this slide because everything is about these global challenges. In each era, the shape of the research and even the educational system and the policies is shaped by the contemporary global challenges. Now, the global challenges that we are facing are most listed in here. It started with climate change and global warming, and then now we have artificial intelligence and robots, and then the rest usually related to these first two, like equality, just transition, mass immigration, water and food access, and all those are related to global, the basic first two global challenges. And these global challenges is, if you focus on just one of those, you cannot identify one single field or even department in a university that can address those challenges. Just climate change, for example. It is not only a concern of environmentalists. It's not only a concern of environmental engineers. Now it's fall in all areas of on the campus. Okay, it's a concern of the sociologists, concern of the economists, the psychology, and all those social fields as well. Okay. So if we have all these challenges that requires all the information from different fields, then how we are going to address. So if it's not one field, this will be very difficult to coordinate between all those fields. So over time, because of this challenge, you can see it in your university. I assume most of you, maybe many of you are from campus, right, from university, so you are professor maybe. So you can see that the universities are going through structural changes. They change the name of the departments. So a mechanical engineering all of a sudden turns something else. Or the people in the building are just moving to some other buildings. Why? Because they are making all this new restructuring to address these challenges. It is not because they taking the people from different departments and bring them together. Then they say, okay, now this group of people are going to address that one. So that group of people is becoming a unit, and that unit over time becomes a department. So maybe there's a slide in here I found in the internet. I like this very much. So it summarizes the evolution of these terms over time that causing the changes, the structural changes on campuses or in the institutions. So it started with multidisciplinary work, then we talked about cross-disciplinary, then now we are talking interdisciplinary. From now on, we are going to talk transdisciplinary. Of course, when it comes transdisciplinary, we are not going to call that transdisciplinary. We are going to say a new department, okay, or a new unit. We just see a new department in a campus. So that is basically the transdisciplinary part of this process. And these new units we are expecting are going to address those challenges. So when we address those challenges, most of the time we talk about these sustainability issues, right? So sustainability also become very popular when we talk about social acceptance. But when we talk about these global challenges, at the same time we mention sustainability at a point. Even your presentation here, we mentioned sustainability, always sustainability, because over time we find that if something is not sustainable, that thing fails. Why it fails? Because it has three dimensions, and those dimensions should balance if you are going to implement something. It's like even hydropower, for any kind of energy policy, with any usage or investment or with the new implementation of technology. If you do not consider these three dimensions, then that initiative is going to fail. So three dimensions are economy, social, and environment. So as an engineer, we have very good, not me, I mean, you have very good tools to assess the environmental impact of initiative. We, as an economist, have very good tools to assess the economic part of those initiatives. It could be policy, technology, a program, or whatever. But for the social part, that is the most problematic one, because the assessment requires quantitative variables or indicators, but when it comes to the social part, we have very good definitions, but when it comes to the translate those into policy or something functional, then we fail. Why? Because it's a quantitative, and it's very difficult to obtain something quantitative out of that. Of course, it's possible, but it just takes time. That's why we have a growing literature in this area, and people start to discuss it. That's why now I'm here. Maybe I can help you to quantify some social quantitative issues in your assessments. So if you don't understand the social part completely, then we cannot understand whether we have a balance in here. If it's not balanced, then it's not sustainable. Okay, so for the sustainability, they have to have balance between all this. So that's why we talk about social acceptance, because social acceptance become one of the maybe more, I don't want to say most, but it's close between something more and most important term in this area, because it's bringing all that information, the social part and helping to quantitative for assessments, whatever it is the social issue. Because all the social issues, one way or another way, relate to the behavior, so that behavior need to be changed. When it comes to change, we talk about social acceptance, because social acceptance is about behavior change. Okay, so social acceptance, I picked this definition from my latest publication. So it's just basically is people's positive attitudes and the behaviors toward a technology or a policy. So if you are positive about it, then it's okay. If it's not, then you need to understand why. So social acceptance is just something that people accept it, but it's not just, it doesn't mean that it's going to be implemented properly, because there's a difference between acceptance and acceptability. So when we say people may like it, it's acceptable, there's acceptability, But that is just the potential, tells you the potential. But the point again is the acceptance. Acceptance means you have to change your behavior. Okay? If you like it, we have to use it. We have to support it. Okay? So that is, if you have this kind of attitude or the behavioral change, then we can say there is no obstacle, no barriers. There's going to be a smooth transition of that implementation. Yeah? So that's the basic definition. But when we talk about this, what's important in here is that definition. What is the scope of it? That is something that we need to understand. So we divide the community in or society in three parts. So first part is when we say we need a smooth transition, there is one important factor that we can consider. At a point, you have to convince the decision makers. Okay, so it may require a new law. It may require a political decision. Okay, maybe governmental or state decision. So that is related to the socio-political acceptance. Okay. Well, it depends on what is the project. So some projects may require more focus on this, but you have to understand that for your project that you need to have more focus on this. And if that is the case, you cannot ignore this part. You have to consider that issue. The second one is the community acceptance. Sometimes the community is not a decision maker, even though decision making part of the community, but we consider them as a community. So you have to of the community. Hydropower is mostly community because it influences everybody in there, whether you are a decision maker, you are an investor, you are just a citizen in there, it influences everybody. So usually with hydropower, we consider community. So community acceptance has become an issue in here. Market acceptance is also related to as the title indicates, the market. So it's in the market, they have investors, they have consumers. If that initiative requires that investor, you have to convince investors. Or if that initiative requires customers, you have to convince the customers. So you have to understand if there is a barrier coming from those dimensions. So those are the 3 points, 3 dimensions of acceptance are important. But before you implement your projects, you have to understand which dimension is important for your initiative, for your policy. So, but it's so easy to understand that with the large scale hydropower, it is the community, but with small scale, we have experience that we have that experience in Turkey. You need to convince community plus investors. If you don't convince communities, it's a problem. But if you don't convince the small investors, you may not be successful because in Turkey they implemented the policy to build small dams on every kind of running water. But project failed. It failed because they ignored the community acceptance part and they ignored this market acceptance part. The first one was okay. They already have the government supported that policy, but project still failed because they ignored that part. Yeah. So in hydropower, I checked the literature, and if people are working on this area, I saw, wow, it's incredible. And still people are starting to work on social acceptance in hydropower literature. So I picked some recent research that focused on these issues. Is Venice, and this is the first one, they say specifically mentioned the public participation for this kind of projects. And then this grant is also focused on justice. Justice is one dimension of social acceptance. So there are 3 dimensions of justice. He specifically focused on those. Say you should not ignore this if you want to a smooth transition in the region. And this guy is also focused on this. So I can tell you there's a growing literature in hydropower literature on social acceptance. Even the World Commission on Dams in 5 years ago, they developed, they announced the basic strategies, and social public acceptance is one of the 8 strategies. Okay? So don't confuse with public acceptance and social acceptance. The term social acceptance addresses all. And before social acceptance became very popular, they were using the term public acceptance because they were thinking that it is the only community that should be convinced. Since it was community, they were calling public acceptance. But now, it has 3 dimensions. So let's just say call social acceptance the 3 dimensions. And this public acceptance usually means the community acceptance. So they say, well, it's one of the 8 strategies that should be considered. What kind of challenges in hydropower? Well, you are probably familiar with this. I mean, we will see the hydropower projects often face resistance due to the environmental and social concerns. There's 2 in here. So it says, well, how is going to impact the environment? So when it comes to this one, then we can see it is not only the people in the region. People may have some social norms or some political standing. They say even people are not living in that region, they may resist to this. I don't want them in that region. But you are not living in that because my principle says I should be against it. So then norms become more important. If norms are important, then it's not only people in that region, it's worldwide. Okay. So, and then ecosystem changes is still the same. It can, if it's related to norms, then you can see that people from all over, even the different countries, they can object it. Then we'll have a serious resistance against the implementation. And the other one is more local, like displacement of the communities. As long as it's just a local, not a historical region or something that means for the community, then it's local. Then you can say, okay, that is one of the main the objection for the implementation of these kind of projects. And then the impact of that on inequities, because there's some income related to economic benefits to the project. So people always question who is going to benefit, because he's the people closer to the project are the one that paying the cost most, but they in return they want the benefit of it. If it's not equal, then the resistance raises. Okay, so I developed a framework for the nature-based solutions. I just want to show you this how important social acceptance in the policy development. Yeah? So in this framework, you can see this is just published in Nature Factor Journal in here. So you can see once you get information, you collect data, you run your analysis, you make a decision, then you develop the policy. This is where you make your decision. If you don't come up with this point, don't reach this point, you don't have a policy. If you don't have a policy, there is no initiation. Okay? You cannot implement anything. If it fails in here, this one is going to fail. Okay? This is what it says. So that shows how important is social acceptance. Now you can see the latest, the Horizon projects, they call something social leaders. It's basically social acceptance. Okay? It is as important as technological leaders. Okay? If society is not ready for that technology, it's going to fail. That's the why it's becoming important. So it's in here. If it fails in here, then you don't have policy. And all those are based on, I'm not going to go over this very boring topics. It's social acceptance is about behavioral change. And the model that we use for the framework is based on the psychological theories. And the theory is about behavioral change. And these are the psychological theories related to behavioral change. So based on this theory, we modified this model already in the literature, but we modified for our framework. I call this candies. Say because it looks like candies, I'm going to draw these shapes here. My colleague, they are going to use this as a tool in a model. They say we call it candy model. It is comparable and what is the dynamic? C is comparability and D is for dynamism in candy. So this one is basically, if you implement this, follow this framework, no matter what kind of technology that you are talking about, if you check and identify the social acceptance, you can compare. And you can check all the time. It's not only one-time shot. So you can check and use that all the time. So that's why it's called dynamic. If you combine this with the framework, then you can have a comparable and a dynamic model for your project. This slide is not for you, maybe just in case you are a researcher in this area. You have it tells you how you develop questions for the comparability of the results, so you can skip this one. So the method just is partial least squares and any kind of method that you can use once you get the data, and then Those are just basic information. I thought maybe the scientists that were interested in this or put the stats in here. Yeah, are you going to distribute the stats? Yes, that's why I put those stats in there. You can just keep those for now. So it says the lessons from the hydropower. I check the literature, and for my readings, it says engage with local stakeholders. Always engage with them. Otherwise, your project may fail. We have lots of examples for that. A bad example in Turkey, a good example in Norway. You can see all those there. Just because of they engaged the people, it was successful. They ignored the people, it was failed. And then comes to offer the compensatory benefits and they ensure equitably. Yes, equality is important, and also we should promise the people what are the benefit of that is not only is beneficial for the humankind, is beneficial for the environment, is beneficial for the country. Is you should tell the people that it's also beneficial for you because it's going to increase the employment, it's going to increase the education level, so it's going to increase the investment and so on. You should talk about this as well, not only just because of it's good for the humanity, it's going to be good for them. So I don't think. Okay? They should not say so. If they say so, then the project may fail. Okay? And then transparency is very important, and you should convince them that you address all these concerns. Okay? And these are important. These are important in hydropower. But you're pretty much done. Yes, I'm done for the social.
Great.
I was quick, sorry, because they told me I had 15 minutes.